Greetings, my friends, and welcome to another transmission from the First Church of the Presence of God. You know, it's a difficult thing to explain to people something that is right there, but you can't see it. Something that can't be interpreted through sensory report. And the thing is, so many of us have gotten used to relying on our senses to tell us what is real and what isn't real. We rely on our own judgment to qualify that for ourselves. And our senses operate according to a bandwidth. And that bandwidth is quite narrow. And it's influenced by vibrations because everything is vibrations. And when something happens outside the sphere of the senses, like say the intuition, or when we get a sense of something that we can't define, but it's there, that's information coming to us from outside of the reach of the bandwidth of the senses. And the most important thing to remember from all of this is that senses, let's take vision, but they all have some relation one way or another, report how something appears. And appearances are a lie. They're a literal disguise placed over what's actually there. And all of us, to some degree, live within this hallucination zone of the senses. And we become so dependent on it in this time of materialism that we're just out of touch with the deeper realities of existence. So far too many people now live their lives on the surface of existence. You know, they swim along on the surface, and I think the surface is indicative of the entire ocean, but it isn't, okay? The ocean is very, very deep, and the particular ocean I'm talking about, no one has ever plumbed. So, I had a reason, I tend to digress a lot. I had a reason why I brought this up about the senses and the deception that the general collective of people are operating under, this particular delusion. And that is that because you can't see it, this awareness, this consciousness, this entity, if you will, that exists directly behind this persona or personality that we assume is us, but which is not us. It's a transitory projection. Behind that is a real self. It's conscious. It's present in you. It's looking right back at me while I look at you. But that's because I can see myself looking at me on the screen if I choose to. That didn't make any sense, did it? Anyway, there is this presence that is resident in you. It's conscious. It's looking through your eyes. It's intimately aware of you, far more aware of you than you are of yourself. Why are you not as aware of this entity as it is of you? Well, that is because your attention is all directed outward in this vast panoply of whatever, this landscape of Fata Morgana and mirages and temporary things appearing and going up and down. It's a big carnival. It's a caravan going nowhere. But if you try to tell everybody this, that everything you're doing is meaningless, and everything they consider valuable has no real value and that their entire lives are based upon something that doesn't even exist, well, they're going to get offended. They might even get angry because they don't want to hear this shit. It's basically probably what they would say. So you can't really tell anyone about this who doesn't already want to hear about it. And that's not a whole lot of people. Now, agreeably, or let me present this a little differently. I would just say, arguably, there's big changes going on and more people are becoming aware. They're not sure what it is they're becoming aware of, but they are becoming more aware that things are not entirely what they've been told that they are. Things are not exactly what so-and-so told them it was. They are learning more and more now that the media that controls the general understanding and outlook of most people is actually a lie. And they're catching it in lies because they're awakening. See, with the coming of the Aquarian Age, there's a force of awakening that is moving all through the human consciousness. And it's bringing things to our attention that a lot of us never saw before. And this runs into conflict with the controllers. The controllers are those who have grabbed power, have grabbed position, who grabbed prestige and influence in the temporal world. And they like to give the impression that the temporal world is all that there is. That's not the case at all. If there's a visible world, of course there's an invisible world. I mean, the laws of physics tell us this. And of course, the whole idea of bandwidth, narrow bandwidth of the senses, well, there are all these rays and other things that we've already proven exist, that exist outside of it. And who knows what else is outside there. Just because they can't measure it, because they can't see it, it's convenient for them to say it doesn't exist. And most especially so because they want you to believe that they know what's going on and they're in control of everything and they don't want to lose that. They're very attached to this and they'll kill to keep their hands on it. Unfortunately for them, this is all changing now. And people are becoming aware that there is an invisible world, and this whole temporal world actually takes its marching orders from the invisible world. Now you might say, well, that doesn't make sense because visible, if you're talking about an invisible world that has a higher sense of morality and is more caring and more fair and everything else, well, the temporal world doesn't reflect that, so how can it be taking its marching orders from there? Well, you see, there's a drama that goes on here, and you have to give people the freedom to act out according to their appetites and desires and everything else, because the whole point of being here is to learn. This is a boot camp. And of course, a lot of people fail boot camp. But then that's because they don't understand what the priorities are. The priorities are of a much higher order than what goes on down here. But they're allowed to scrimmage in the playground of existence in order to learn for the purpose of demonstration. And that's what history, which is a big lie, shows us many examples of. And there have been some pretty spectacular failures, and there have also been some great human beings who've done marvelous things and were not appreciated at the time they were here because they were part of the advance party. Oh, well, my friends, some very big changes are coming now. Let me see if I can put it in a little bit of astrological context. Aquarius is ruled by two planetary forces. One is Saturn, and the other one is Uranus. And Saturn is very traditional and you could say extremely materialistic in a lot of regards, and limiting. Limiting is definitely one of its qualities. Uranus, on the other hand, is extremely innovative and revolutionary and all the rest of that. And so it would seem to me, but this is just how I get it, that these two forces, Saturn and Uranus, are representative of what is going to be seen as two different mindsets going forward into the Aquarian Age. And one is like that of materialism and getting attached to all of this external stuff, and the other changes, revolutions in thought and entirely new ways of looking at it. And they're going to come into conflict, as you know, is generally the case with two different forces. And what the resolution of that is going to be is, well, however that drama is going to play out. I want to say this, I want to say that, and geez, I'm not sure. Let me just segue out of that whole thing there and get into some personal practices that I think would be of a lot of use to all of you. And that has to do with how we spend our each and every day. And I think I spoke about this in the last video about breathing, eating, and excreting, and all the rest of that. And I didn't add in the blessing that I make over my food every time I eat. And I try to do it with an authenticity as if I were doing it for the first time. Because if you don't bless your food, and that's one reason I don't eat in restaurants, because who knows what these people are thinking or what their intention is, and they're just in these routines and they just sling the food out, and who knows what they're thinking about, and that goes into the food. Well, there are all sorts of reasons why. Probably not a good idea. And I prepare all my own food, and I say this blessing, and as I say, I try to say it as if I'm saying it for the first time, because it really has to have that emotion with it. I'll have my food in front of me, I'll go, "Beloved Lord God, we pray that thou would bless and consecrate this sacrament to our body, being, and spirit. Transform this, Lord, into your spiritual quintessence, your divine essence, your pure love, as it pleases you to choose, Lord. And then let it transform us in accordance with your will. Thy will be done in me, Lord, as it is in heaven." Thank you. Thank you, Lord. And please enjoy this with me if you feel it might please you, Lord. Thank you. Okay, that seems like a mouthful, right? But yet, just like when I go to the bathroom, what I repeated, I do that. I've arranged my whole life in such a way that everything I do, I got a commentary going about it. Now, why would I do that? Can't I just remember it once and then that's it? Or just remember it now and again, say a couple times a day or something? There's this thing called the subconscious mind. Now, a lot of people, they think they know what the subconscious mind is or the unconscious mind is, and I'll give you the way I understand it to be, because there's a lot of interpretations out there. The conscious mind is your mind, okay? So what you think with and yada, yada, yada. It's also the self-consciousness. That's you apart from everyone else, and this is that, that's this. It's that part of the mind that does that. Well, I see the subconscious mind as the heart. Subconscious mind is the part that feels. And that's why they'll sometimes say it's like a child. It's just all feeling, or a woman for that matter. I don't mean it in the way that just sounded. But anyway, I see women as the highest expression of it. So anyone who knows me understands that. And I, being a devotee of the goddess, I think it's clear where I'm coming from. But they are the subjective mind, and if you look at any of the tarot cards, you see the relationship that's set up in that way. And so I'm speaking to my inner female, and I'm programming her. Okay, that probably sounds a little patriarchal, But it's mine, okay? It's inside me. It doesn't belong to the big group of feminists out there, okay? This is my internal feminine. And I'm programming it because it gives birth to everything that takes place in my life. You see, I impregnate it with my thought. That's the high priestess before she becomes the empress. And through my meditation as the magician, I send thought impulses into my female subconscious section of my being, and I send these constant pulses, okay? They're pulses. And so the more pulses there are, and the more greater the intensity of the pulses, the greater chance there is that you're going to have some kind of success with this, okay? Now, of course, your subconscious can tell if you're sincere or not, or if it's just like kind of pro forma or like, automatic or something like that. It doesn't take it seriously. Other people don't take it seriously when you sound like you're talking like it doesn't even mean anything to you. Yes? So, sincerely, I tell my subconscious that this is how it is, this is how I wish it to be. And I explain that it's good for both of us because we're both part of the same dynamic. And we can either have chaos and disunity, disharmony, or we can have harmony. And I much prefer that. Yeah. I'm not really a details guy. I'm a big picture guy. So if you want harmony in your life in these times, adopt the principles of the Aquarian Age. If you seek disharmony, oppose them. All right. So back to what I was saying about programming the subconscious. Now, I've said this a number of times, but I'll say it again. Your mind is either your best friend or your worst enemy. And this is another reason I constantly say, don't lie to yourself. When you lie to yourself, these imprint too, and those develop. And everything you see meets up with the truth at some point. This is a cosmic verity. It's unavoidable. So it's better that you are in a position other than being a flat-out liar and telling yourself prevarications. And just because it's like giving yourself wrong directions, like you want to go one place, but you tell yourself that this is how you get there, but you don't get there that way. Doesn't that sound a little bit stupid or crazy? One of the two, crazy or stupid, your preference. See, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I really did. I was extremely passionate, and willful. There are things I wanted. And there's also a great deal I didn't understand. And so I had a terrible childhood. You've got no idea, okay? It's worse than you can imagine. And so I came out, when I left home, I was only like 12 years old, really, if you think about it. And Arrested Development has stayed with me through my whole life. I was shut down in such a way you just can't even imagine. It was an all-day kind of thing with me every day, the kind of things that happened. And so it's been a lot to get out of it. And it also had a lot to do with a lot of the problems that get down in my life for a very long time. But I'm one of those kind of people. I'm always going to evolve, and I'm always going to change. And so I finally found the right thing. Took me long enough, but I finally figured some things out, okay? And one of them is, that you yourself are responsible, can be responsible for everything that happens in your life. So you have to take command of it. You have to take charge of it. And there's you, the self-conscious mind, and there's the subconscious. And everything in your life comes out of that. Everything. Okay? Now, yeah, you're influenced by other people that you listen to or books that you read or particular paths that you follow may have something to do with the architecture of your mind. But that's still up to you, whether you accept it or not, which is why I trust but verify. I prove things out, or I just, they don't prove it. I scrap it. Yeah. So There's the self-conscious and there's the subconscious. But there's also the superconscious, and that's God. He's resident in you, okay? And I think I discussed last time here about how the lady in the picture of the lovers looks at the angel and the man looks at the lady. And that is, to my interpretation, the sun of the divine intelligence shines down on the subconscious. It's looking directly, because it can see it. Your self-conscious mind can't. And the idea is to get the self-conscious mind to reflect the angel, that is the divine, that is transmitting the information to the subconscious, to get the subconscious to be completely quiescent and open to mirror the divine, and then to send it up to the subconscious mind. And there you have got a magical ritual, and I have found that it works. More than that, I can't tell you. And some might say, well, invisible, you figured all this out. Why? How come you're not rich? That's always a question of us. I have no desire to be rich. I am rich. I'm one of the richest men on earth. Oh, yes, indeed. I'm one of the most fortunate people on this planet. I have a direct relationship with the ineffable who talks to me. I talk back, and it talks to me. Oh, yes. And I have verified this. It doesn't matter to me what anyone else believes or thinks about it. I proved it to myself. I know it is so. So how can you be more fortunate than that? It's not possible. But subsequently, having that, everything in this world ceases to be desirable. Because by comparison, nothing here is worth having. The only thing worth having is the presence of God. This is why we put together the first church in the presence of God, because we feel this is the best expression of what the Aquarian Age is going to be about. And it's also a church where no one's telling anybody what to do or making rules for anybody. All that you do is show people how to experience the presence, and then it's up to them where they go with it and what they do with it. Because each of us has a unique relationship with the divine. And it ain't my job to interfere in that, nor my job to tell anyone what to believe. Or it's too much trouble for me anyway. I live a very private life for a reason. I don't particularly like hanging out with people. Not when I can hang out with God. I mean, yes, I hang out with people now and then, but not very often. And if I can be useful with them, I will. And sometimes they entertain me, and sometimes I entertain them. Sometimes they don't. And the reverse may be true as well. But yeah, I have this delightful relationship that keeps improving and keeps growing with this indwelling consciousness. It's part of me and it speaks to me. It is me, but for the purpose of demonstration and the whole drama itself, let's say that I pretend it's this and that, because I like to be a dualist rather than I am God, it's not my style. I prefer being a servant. I prefer being a friend. I prefer being just kind of a simple guy, even though I'm not that simple. I prefer just being one of everybody else and not better than, or see, all of that leads to trouble. I've really learned so many things, and I've figured a lot of things about life, and I know what hurts and what doesn't. I know what feels good and what doesn't. I know what lasts and what doesn't. And so, that is how I try to operate my life now, and this is why I have these rituals all through the day. And I vary them. I add, little flourishes here and there, or a little more explanation sometimes than others. It's all between me and the subconscious. Now, understand, that's my personal subconscious. But then there's the greater subconscious too, which I call Lady Nature. But see, this subconscious of mine is in direct contact with that other subconscious. And so there's a chance for me to be able to read the book of nature, to look where the really exciting stuff is, the really interesting stuff. And to commune with this whole world, which is the Davic realm, in which are all the different elementals and angels and other fantastic creatures and a lot of illumined entities of a certain kind. It's like a fairy tale land. But you got to be careful, because in this fairy tale land, there are also, the kind of other things you hear about in fairy tales. And so you need to be, you either need to have the juice, or you got to be with the guy who has the juice. That I have that relationship, so thankfully. And this entity, you can meet yourself to if you wish. You just have to. You have to go through the trouble, and you have to impress this entity with your sincerity and sense of sacrifice and giving, and the various qualities or persona of the higher side of yourself. That's where you need to be coming from. I am so grateful, I cannot tell you. I am so grateful to the Almighty and, well, to all of the various divisions of the Lady Nature and the Goddess and the Lord of the Devic realm and Lord Vivasvan, who is the regent in Lord Surya's seat, which is the sun, and from which all manifest life proceeds, and the spiritual sun, which is antecedent to it, and which is responsible for the actual physical sun. Well, so you can have relationships with all of these. Don't get the idea that these things are out of your reach somehow. If you're persistent, determined, and sincere, you can get the attention of these beings. And it may take a while, but you're being watched all the time. And once you develop a relationship with the angels, well, they'll communicate for you to anyone else, if it's useful, if it's something they think is proper and correct to do. I mean, there are no limitations on you. These are all imaginary things that you have placed upon yourself. So many people have put themselves in bondage. They are literally confined within the penitentiary of the mind. It does not work for me. And it should not work for you either. It doesn't work for anybody for that matter, but it's what they're left with. I'd like to point something out about the difference between the Piscean Age and the Aquarian Age. The mantra, if you would like, in Western terms, for the Piscean Age is, I believe. The one for the Aquarian Age now will be, I know. Okay. So that's a lot there to think about. Mm-hmm. Your life is only as good as your aspirations, okay? What do you aspire to? I mean, you're going to get it, so you better think about, have some idea of what that is. I can't aspire to pedestrian things. I want to be a rock star, or I want to be president, or I want to be a movie star. And I don't want to be any of those things. I want to be a friend of God. I can't imagine anything better than that, because you got to really think about what that means. And you can be that. You want to be a friend of God? Be a friend of God. It's as simple as that. But you have to be consistent in it, and you have to always act like a friend. How do we gain and lose friends, right? Through trust and through betrayal of trust. Everything's pretty simple when your mind is in the right place. It all kind of answers itself. The only time it gets all real confusing and complicated is when you've got personal agendas. Get rid of these personal agendas. They're not going to go anywhere anyway. You're going to wind up with an unlimited framework that's going to just fall apart anyway. Become timeless. Aspire to be a star, a real star. Every star in the sky was once someone like you and I. Hey, that's a poem. To do something with that, okay. Wait, I have to write that down. So anyway, um, so aspire to be a star, to shine selflessly, because you got to do that, for the joy and assistance of one and all, because stars are filled with all kinds of different qualities and beauties, as well as life and the force of light, and what light, it's very involved, can be. So it's really good to have decent aspirations. Think better of yourself. I mean, if anyone had reasons not to think better of themselves, I was raised and told I was a dirty hound, that I was a useless individual and I would never amount to anything, right from the time I could walk, before that even. Okay, I was hearing this, much worse even, all the time. Now there was a reason for this, okay, and I don't regret any of it because it's all part of what has brought me to where I am today. I had to get remade, but it actually did happen, and it can happen for you too. The only reason I talk about these things is because I feel it is necessary to share my joy, to share the wonder, and just, there are no words. But I have to use words to do it. I want to share this with others. I want you to have this because I can't imagine not wanting to have this. It's, and it's on tap all the time. The tap is running and it's endless and there's no water bill, and you can stream it out to others. You can share it in life. You can do so many wonderful things just by forgetting yourself. If you just forget yourself. Because remembering yourself is remembering your problems and all the things that make up what you think you are, and you're none of these things. You are that bright, shining, luminescent entity that is behind the personality. And the personality itself is like a stained glass window, so with an image of a person, you, in it. And it's lighter in some places and darker in others. And where it's dark or opaque is where the sun can't pass through, and that's where your karma is, that is blocking the light. Don't block the light. So how do you get rid of your karma? You need purification. And love will cleanse you. Selfless love and service will cleanse you. So you make it to where your stained glass, that personality, is not blocking the light at any point. It just, the shimmering radiance just shines through you. This is the objective, and this is that to which I aspire. And it is what I advise others to aspire to, because you know what? When you aspire to things like this, boom, you get the attention of angels. That's right. When they see someone working in this area, and don't think it's even hidden, because if you're in a house somewhere and you're just thinking this out and you're not out demonstrating anywhere, they know. They come around and they say, oh, I want to help this guy. I want to help him get on with this because this is all good and this benefits everybody, and that's how they think. But if they see that you're up to this, they go, later maybe, no, I don't even want to get involved in that. But there are other entities that do. They're called demons. There are other forces from the infernal realm, and they get involved in that side of it when that's the way that you are directed. And all of these directions lead to an epiphany, which is the purpose of demonstration. They all lead to a situation where you are shown. There are some things, trust me, you don't want to be shown. Get ahead of the game. Get out of the game to begin with. My friends, I don't know if I can possibly communicate what I am trying to communicate effectively, but I'm trying. You have to let your heart speak to you. If you can create for yourself a higher aspiration, and this is what you're striving for, okay? within a rather brief period of time, you're going to feel better about yourself. And the more you start to feel better about yourself, the more you're going to start to feel better about other people. And the more generous you're going to become. And the more generous you become, the more generosity the universe is going to show you, because life is a mirror. Reflect that which you wish to be, experienced by others. You have an impact on everyone you meet. All through your life, every single day, everything you're doing has an effect on existence. And like I said again, okay, one of my favorite phrases? Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Just because you can doesn't mean it is. So you're never alone, and you're never in secret doing anything. There's invisible entities all around you everywhere. They're watching what you're doing. And if you're one of those exceptional people that's got these higher aspirations and is really trying to work for the betterment of all, you're going to suddenly find all kinds of help. You're going to go, what's going on here? Yeah. And things can change for you, my friends, very quickly. Success is speedy for the energetic. If you change and you're convinced and you're passionate and you got drive and you're directed because the love in your heart is seeing the rightness of what it is that you're up to, well, you can go through some very rapid transformations. I know whereof I speak here. So I'm just telling you, Well, I think it's time for me to wrap this up. It's probably, I don't know how long I've been doing it here, but I always seem to wind up somewhere around half an hour. And I think we're getting into that area now. And, well, there's things I do when I go to sleep too. But maybe we'll save that for the next broadcast, where we might talk about lucid dreaming and how to influence your dreams, and how to have your dreams influence your coming day, and also how to get your day off to a positive start. That is important, isn't it? Isn't it important how you feel? How life feels to you? Isn't it important to have a sense of the rightness of things, and to be able to know that you're part of that, and that's what your intention is? So you can set yourself up in such a way that this becomes a routine for you. It can be what we call a good habit, as opposed to. And the only one way to get rid of bad habits is just don't do them anymore. How's that sound? Of course, there's this monkey on the back and stuff, and there's something, you made it real big, and now it tells you what to do. Stop feeding it. It relies on you for its food. If you stop feeding it, it'll shrink away to nothing. Of course, it might try to intimidate you and demand, but remember, it's just a shadow. It isn't real. Okay, my friends. Many blessings upon you, and may God work a wonder in your existence, and may you see what it is that I'm talking about here, because it isn't something you can really talk about, you know what I mean? So, God bless you, one and all.